Welcome back to First World Problems. I'm JP,
And I am Remy.
and we have another awesome podcast for you. And today, the subject will be talking about the African opportunity. I hope you're excited.
Yes, we're getting a little bit away from Canadian politics.
Yes.
Let's talk about Africa
Yes, if most of you have
as a continent, not a country. Just want to make that clear.
So the country of Africa, yes, as a continent, and if you have not figured, we are both of African origin.
Yeah.
We love the blue passport, not gonna lie.
Yes.
It works. However, today we'll be talking about something that very few of you know, but all of you will know in 20 years. And that is the African opportunity. Because the African opportunity is a once in a 200-year occurrence where demographic, economic opportunity, resources, everything aligns to determine economic progress. And Africa is as good a place as any because of just how it's situated, how many young people are there. We'll explore 6 different ways that Africa is completely, perfectly designed to move forward. And then we'll go into, do we have the right people at the table? Do we have the right organizations to actually do it? Because we are at this inflection point, kind of similar to Asia in the 1980s, where the next global billionaires, the next trendsetters, power brokers will emerge from Africa. Even when they're not African, it's going to be hard to be the richest man in the world without having business in Africa.
Yes.
And if we make intentional investments at the right time for education, infrastructure, capital, and tell our story and our culture, we can have this opportunity be really utilized by Africans. So let's get into it, man. What's the first thing that comes to you when you think about this African opportunity?
Population.
Population, yes.
Africa currently, we have the youngest population in the world. That's not the only one. We also have we are the only continent currently with a growing population. So we are still the only ones right now with more than 2 to 3 children birth per woman.
Yes.
Like only Africa is doing that. We know that South Korea, actually, they have a problem. South Korea, Japan, they have a problem. Actually, their population is going to go down to the point that the country is going to be economically not viable because of old people and no young people.
Yeah.
We know that the whole of Europe, we know that US and Canada also have a population growth problem based on birth. Africa, on the other hand, we have the youngest population. I think
Median
the average
age,
is what?
Median
19?
age is 19.
19
yeah,
years.
you're right.
And we are the only ones with still a good population growth of about 3 children per birthing woman, like a woman who can still give birth. So
And
that's a big one.
That's a big one because if we compare it to Japan and South Korea, which are on the lower end of the spectrum, every woman is having just about 1.
Yeah.
The replacement
Or
rate.
0. 1 and 0.
Right. And in Canada, if we clean out immigration, Canada is actually where South Korea is.
Yes,
If
actually,
we
Canada won't survive without immigration. By the way. Like, it doesn't matter what any politician tells you.
I know for people who have listened to this podcast, we're like 6 episodes in, there is no podcast where we have not talked about the immigration problem. And the immigration problem is the opposite side of that is the immigration dividend or like the population dividend. So Africa having the reproduction rate that we have is going to comprise in the short 25 years. You and I will still be in these streets in 25 years. There's somebody who took on a mortgage today who will not have finished paying.
Yeah.
Africa will be a quarter of the world population because of this reproduction.
Yeah.
So every 1 in 4 people will live in Africa.
Yeah.
And then they will be younger too because you mentioned the median age being 19.
Yeah.
The median age of North America is 38. So add 25 years from there. Not only do we have people, our people are in their prime. They're like 20 plus 25. They're going to be 44.
Yes.
While people in North America will be, I can't do math
60,
quickly.
70.
Yeah, somewhere 67, 70.
Yeah.
This is beyond the baby boomers. This is like the new baby boomers. So
Can you talk a bit about why this is an advantage? I think sometimes we have heard, like I remember, like for example in Malawi, they be like, oh, we do family planning. We have high population growth and stuff. And you talk about why this is a huge advantage for Africa, on the fact that a quarter of the world is going to be African in the next few years.
So the important thing about this economics. This is where my Trent economics degree comes in.
Yes.
I hardly use this thing, but today I will kick some dust off of it. Part of how the economy works is consumption. Consumption is based on whether there are needs and whether they're financed now or financed in the future. One of the reasons why everyone loves doing business in the US is because even though there are only 300 people,
300 million.
300 million, and maybe now 350, they are able to borrow from their future selves so they can show up as 700 or 1 billion people because they're not spending today's money only. They go and take a credit card and spend tomorrow's money. Now think about somewhere like Africa where right now most people are spending cash. So they haven't even started spending tomorrow's money. And that credit system is going to develop. So every time somebody comes into the economy, that's a mouth to feed, that's a body to clothe, that's a school to educate, there's a shop. Every single time somebody serves them, the economy gets bigger. But in addition to that, the credit markets in Africa have not been open.
Yeah.
So once they open, it's like you're bringing one person, but it's really like 3 people. Because as the credit markets open, somebody can go and get a mortgage, for example. You've seen Rwanda start to introduce mortgages that are more than 20 years.
Yeah.
If it was Rwanda in the past, you cannot get that mortgage. So how many people will be buying houses? Even fewer.
Yes.
So the credit markets plus the growing population increases the number of people who are actually doing business. But it's not just that makes it a huge advantage. The huge advantage is also there are 350 million people moving from the village into the cities.
Yeah.
So the urbanization presents even more economic advantage because then you can build high density housing. You will start to see skyscrapers go up.
Yeah.
And what happens with that? It means high tech manufacturing and high tech construction comes into these countries, hires people, trains engineers, employs laborers, and you have now a sprawling real estate market.
Yeah.
So there are so many different aspects of how this is an advantage, but it starts with having a population that has the energy to work, to create value, and also the consumption power that has yet to be unlocked.
Yeah. And like that's a good point you just mentioned. Is one big thing that we are going to have over everyone, apart from what JP just talked around consumption, which is we are going to consume more, and also our consumption power is increasing, is also labor.
Yeah.
We are going to have more labor than any other continent. Essentially, we are going to have younger people who are in their prime to work. So capital, like human capital, is going to be a big thing that we are providing to the world. As you know, like Asian countries, looking at China and even Singapore, even the small ones like Indonesia and
Thailand,
they all developed because of their labor. Like especially China.
Vietnam is going through the end phase.
It's going through that. So China had such a high labor and cheap labor that made it possible for them to do most of the industrial production. And because of the cheap labor, it allowed pretty much all the businesses in the West, in the US, Canada, Europe, to move their production in China because it was cheap. Now that trend is changing. That trend is going to come to Africa. So industrial revolution is something that is growing, and it's going to grow even bigger in Africa, especially now with the power of technology. Like AI gives us an advantage that Asian countries did not have. We are going to have a much higher capacity of production than Asian countries will, as long as we take advantage of the technology that we have, but also the population that we have. Labor is going to start being cheap. I'll give you an example. For example, in Rwanda, companies are opening up contact centers. Like
call centers.
Call centers.
Yeah.
They've started coming to Rwanda. Microsoft has a call center in Rwanda, and other like tech companies have started opening tech centers in Rwanda. Why? Because cheap, like labor is cheap, but also we are growing a human capital that is educated, that has the knowledge, and we have the diversity. They can speak English, French, Swahili, Kinyarwanda, and other languages. Because especially for Rwanda, because of what has happened, it has made Rwanda to know more languages than a normal African country. So the fact that it's cheap labor, that is an educated or not educated, like skilled labor. It's a skilled labor that is affordable. Companies are going to start doing that. Ethiopia, for example, now is growing as a textile industry. They are creating.
Ethiopia is actually all right.
Yes, the textile industry that was in Asia.
Wait, was it you that was showing me the data on what are the top places to invest in Africa? Ethiopia was like number one.
No, but
like
I agree with that person.
GDP was like 7%.
Yes.
And it's like a real 7%, not like the Cook number.
Yeah.
Because they have a little bit of everything. The education is educated, skilled, unskilled. They have a coastline, a good network, road network.
Yes.
And when we talk about skilled labor, the other thing that Africa can expect is a middle class expansion.
Yeah, yeah.
That's another market that is growing. You're seeing more people drive cars, more doctors, dentists, more professionals, and that's because like the GDP is, or like it's already, you can see it, but the GDP is projected to grow from, so the collective GDP is expected to grow from 3.1 trillion to 16 trillion by 2050.
Yeah.
So that is 5 times in 25 years.
Yes.
So-
a huge jump and a
Huge-
very fast growth.
Huge jump. And I think it's worthwhile to take a step back and explain why GDP of that kind of growth attracts money. So hedge funds that are taking care of pension funds in the West always have to look for a return so that the pension fund does not run out of money. So the best place they can grow is a place that is promising to go 5 times up in the next 25 years. So they don't even have a choice because Canada's GDP is expected to grow by 2%. If they invest in Canada, they will run out of money for their pensioners. But because they are going to invest in Africa, they can have 5 times their money. The other thing is consumer spending. Consumer spending is expected to hit 2.5 trillion by 2030,
Yeah.
which this is up from 1.4, right?
Yeah.
Which means it's almost going to double. And this means some of those credit markets are going to be open. Credit cards are going to start becoming prevalent. Car loans, student loans, things that most people do not actually understand how big that opportunity is, because it's like if you take the fact that every Canadian has about $21,000 of consumer debt and you remove that debt completely, that is how big the opportunity is.
Yeah, and you see it, like, for example, I'll give you an example. For example, Equifax. Is it Equifax or TransUnion? I think TransUnion. TransUnion has started.
Yes.
Has
Doing credit ratings. Like
credit rating in Africa.
Nigeria has a credit rating that you can actually bring here
Yeah,
from Equifax.
yeah. Like I think either it's Equifax or TransUnion. They are already in South Africa. They expanded in Kigali, so they are now in Rwanda as well. And that's a growing, like doing credit and doing credit score is a growing thing now in Africa. That shows you how that expansion of that market is coming. And another thing is Africans have actually been creating what I call customized solutions, where, for example, like Safaricom in Kenya, they're doing M-Pesa. M-Pesa is not only that Africans are like, and it's growing, it's not just in Kenya, but it's growing, where Africans are able to send money to each other just through your phone, just
peer to peer.
yeah, like nothing. You don't need an app. You don't need anything. You can just send money. Like I can send money to JP anytime, anywhere. I can pay my bills just using my phone, my phone number. You know. But they have also started doing credit.
Yeah.
You can borrow directly from just sending a text message, and they will give you money, and then you pay it with some interest on top. So these are some of the solutions like Africans are creating themselves. Apart from the fact that also the West, including these big companies like Equifax and TransUnion, are coming to Africa to start doing credit.
Yeah, and they see the opportunity. And one of the things that I had here was the leapfrogging of technology. Like, if I decide to pay somebody in Canada,
It's a process.
it's a process.
Yeah, and it takes time.
It takes time.
Yeah.
The quickest thing I can send them is Interact,
Yes.
which could take from an hour to however long.
Yeah.
In Kenya, you can pay your matatu with your phone. You can. So the like Africa, the systems are leapfrogging because they're not trying to solve the world's problem. They're trying to solve their problems, and because business is going so fast, they're actually getting to innovate
Yes.
at a very crazy pace. Like right now, there's about 600 tech startups, fintechs that are trying to solve the cash problem and the credit problem.
Yeah.
Like Flutterwave, we know Flutterwave. I know an executive working. He came from here, and now he's working in Zambia. And his whole retirement plan is going to be in Zambia, not here.
Yes, and by the way, Flutterwave this was an African company.
Yeah.
That was now it was bought out. So they exited at a couple billion.
Yeah, and now they're going back for like African domination. And obviously, you can see Google is laying fiber optic cable.
Yes,
So-
huge investment from
Yeah,
Google, by the
huge
way.
investment, and obviously the Africa Continental Trade Agreement.
Yes.
Now this one I don't know it very well, so I'm just gonna give you the table to speak about it here.
Yes. So the AfCFTA
Act.
or AfCFTA,
AfCFTA.
the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. This is essentially the agreement by African Union to create one African market. Africa. They have been, for since I think we started getting independence around the 1960s, they have always been tariffs, there have always been barriers in African countries trading with each other. This is the moment or the time where Africans have decided we have to trade with each other more than we trade with the other world, because that has been the case. I'll give you an example. Flying from Kigali to Dar es Salaam can be more expensive than flying from Kigali to Dubai. Why? Because of barriers that we have put on. Now, all these barriers are being removed. So out of the 55 African countries, 54 countries have signed the agreement, and out of the 54 countries that have signed the African Continental Trade Agreement, 48 countries have ratified it. By ratifying it, it means it has gone to their parliament and they have accepted as a law, and it's active. It's fully
as we
active.
speak.
As we speak.
That is very powerful.
Yes. Countries like Ethiopia, Rwanda, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, they have ratified it. So it means so many barriers are being removed. Countries can now trade each other. Things that we were actually sending to European countries. When your fellow African needs the same product, that is changing. Now you can sell it to your fellow African country before it goes to the West. A very big change in trade.
And sell them at a good price too, without having to buy American dollars.
Exactly. And now that is going to be a big deal, because once we figure out how to remove the US dollar,
then we can trade directly. Your
now
currency,
we can trade.
my currency.
Yes.
Hey,
yes.
I'll give you 4 for 5, 5 for 10, whatever. Now we can do business. And I think all of this leads to an advantage on. Okay, so we have this population, we have this opportunity and growing tech, and now there's an opportunity to educate, innovate, and change the narrative on Africa. Changing the narrative on Africa starts with, obviously, we are not just a resource-poor dark continent, resource-rich dark continent full of hillbillies and a bunch of people who don't know what's what.
Yeah.
So universities are going to have to level up. We are talking about 350 million people moving into major population centers. Universities are not going to be the only ones that needs to level up. I think coding and AI opportunities, somebody having to go to school for 4 years is not going to be what's required. You're going to have to go get your certification in AI and start adding value immediately.
Yeah. So if I'm gonna ask you, like, what would be the impact of AI on everything we talked about African growing and everything? What would be the impact of AI?
I think AI for us, like the same thing that we are witnessing with, we got mobile technology much later. So it did not have, I compare this to the Japanese shipping industry versus the English shipping industry. The way that Japan overtook them is they learned what they were doing and went and just did it better. And that's what we are doing. With payments, we are way ahead of the West.
Actually, yes, we are.
And the cost that we are spending is so little.
Yes.
And what AI is going to do for logistics is going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
Like shipping packages, making sure healthcare centers are coordinated. Like we are a sin number away from an explosive economic activity. One of the challenges that we have is, if I need to find Remy, can I find Remy? But the thing we're using to find Remy is AI now.
Yeah.
While these guys had to get a SIN number, the SIN is not connected to anything. Now we can get that connection more intimate because you put it in your phone, you put it in everything,
Yes.
and then our governments can learn how to collect taxes. Part of the challenge that exists is the governments do not know how to collect taxes. Either they overtax the working people too much,
Yeah.
and they undertax the businesses,
Yeah.
or they overtax the businesses, they tax the working people, or there are some black markets that are developed
I think
that
that's the
don't
part I
get
want to
taxed
talk
at all.
about. Like, yeah, there is a huge black market.
So AI is gonna, I
There's a
think,
huge of small businesses that essentially are not known.
Yeah.
Even their economic productivity is not accounted for.
yes, but with the leapfrogging of the tech,
Yeah.
now if I'm the government collecting taxes, I'll be able to audit so many lines of code, phone payment, to understand how much your business actually made, and then charge you the tax.
Yes.
So to me, that's where AI is going to really like boost us. That it's not going to take us that long to catch on.
Yeah, and I think essentially we have knowledge from everyone else who have gone before us. The industrial revolution in the West, the industrial growth in Asia, technology, innovation, and now AI. So we have all this knowledge, and essentially everything they did slow, everything they learned the hard way, all their lessons, we can now just learn from that and just leapfrog.
Yeah, implement
and do it better.
and go.
Yes.
And we don't
And
have
AI gives us such a huge advantage
huge. Yeah.
to jump so many processes, to skip so much knowledge transfer and just go directly and produce value.
And not even create create the red tape that you see some of the bureaucracy that are created from old systems. Like, for example, if I needed a check to buy a house in Canada, I would need to have that fax, have that in, like, banks have archaic things that they do. In Nairobi, somebody will message somebody and the money is there.
Yeah, definitely. Like mobile money, and this is what you're talking about. Like, for example, in terms of money transfer, we have created our own solution that work for us.
Yeah.
For example, not many people, or there is still, I'll say there is still a high population who don't have smartphone, and they still have the simple USSD phone. But we have created a money transfer system where just with a text message, someone with a simple text message, just USSD, you don't need a smartphone.
You don't?
Just with USSD, someone from the village can send you money.
Yeah.
And someone from the city, they can buy the product from the village directly and pay them directly.
Yeah.
We have changed the way we do money transfer. And now we are actually working now on how to take that international so that someone in Kigali can pay for a product in France or can pay for a product in Canada.
Yeah.
And that changes absolutely the whole market. I think this is actually one of the solutions
Yeah.
that will go global instead of just being
And
African.
that's another thing that we need to talk about. It's not just inside Africa; it's happening outside.
Yeah.
The diaspora opportunity. African diaspora have 1.2 trillion. The transfers in 2022, I think, were 54 billion.
Yeah.
And you can see that the effect of remittances is actually good to reduce foreign aid, which usually comes in as a disguised way of controlling the way your government does business or your population lives its life.
Yes.
So that opportunity is going to keep growing, and I have seen a lot of activity. African Union really pressing the gas on, okay, we have to let our people know that Africa is open for business.
Yeah.
How do you see the diaspora opportunity? And since you're diaspora yourself,
Yeah.
you can actually talk about, like, okay, have you considered investing in Africa? What do you see there?
I not only have I considered investing in Africa, I actually think I am late, first of all. And this is why we're doing this podcast, because the opportunities are huge.
Yeah.
And the sooner you go in, the better. Because the sooner you go in, the more there is more problems to solve. And those problems are not problems, they are opportunities. So first of all, I think I'm late. I need to be in that market. I need to be investing. I think my future is going to be in Africa.
So you can see your retirement happening in Africa?
Yes. I don't see myself retiring here. I don't see myself going to a group home. No. I will retire in Africa.
That's a very
preferably in Rwanda, my home country, or anywhere else in Africa. But I will retire in Africa. And I have to be on top of my game.
Man, that's interesting. For me, the only challenge I see with diaspora investment is the chaos. They're still developing geo-pinning systems for real estate. They're still developing property databases for like cars and general property. So I think there's still a gap there that would make me pause.
Yeah, so for me, that's not a gap. That's an opportunity.
Yes, but what happens if you buy a house that's not your house because the person selling it is not the owner?
So I think we've talked about all these opportunities. Maybe we didn't touch a lot around the challenges.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's one of the challenges. So the challenges is around laws and regulation, properties right. Properties rights is like the biggest thing actually that changed the world.
Yeah.
Where your rights and your properties and your ownership is respected, and you can go to court, and the court will give you a fair judgment of giving you your right, your property. And on top of that, as an ownership, you can sell that, you can transfer that to someone else, and even your family can inherit it. That a part where we are still, I can say, behind, but we're coming up. A lot of countries are working hard
100%.
on their properties.
And the
rights,
AI is there.
on their laws and regulations. For example, I'll tell you in Rwanda, I can buy a property, I can buy land right now from Rwanda.
And you will know exactly where it is.
Yes, because they have created a clear land management system. They have what they call UPI. You can get the UPI. They have a system, you can put the UPI, it will show you who's the owner, it will show you how long he has owned it, it will even show you the value. And you can buy it and how they will transfer it to you. It's very clear. It's all automated. So this is where technology is coming in and resolving some of these issues that we've had.
Yeah.
Now you can, if you go to court, it's a very clear case. Who owns the land or who owns the property, if it's a house, and how it's transferred, who paid who. Very, very clear now.
Yeah.
And I think more countries countries are working to improve, especially around their properties rights.
Yeah.
Because that's a big thing that diaspora has suffered on.
A lot of fraud has been committed by families to family members because of lack of property laws.
Yeah.
But you cannot do the level of business that Africa is about to do and not institute a proper way of transferring and acquiring assets.
Yes, yes.
And now that brings me to another challenge. Do you think the African Union is ready?
No, I don't think the African Union is. I think they have been working hard, and I think they have really made like a lot of progress, especially around the African Trade Agreement. That's huge. That's really huge effort from African Union. But contributions. So like the European Union countries contribute.
Yeah.
So African Union also, they have contributed the African Union. We are still, I think, the only continent with the African Union whereby outside people have contributed more than we have contributed.
Yeah, so
That's a very big
that's contradictory to
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that means there is still a Western influence on us.
Yeah.
There are some things that we will fail to do, that we will fail to implement because we are still getting money from someone else who's not African.
And who might not want us to do all of these things.
Exactly. Like many of the countries, all African Union, their contributions. Some haven't contributed in years. China and the US and European Union are still some of our biggest funders to African Union, including actually the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa. It was built by China.
Wow.
Not
Yeah.
Africans, Chinese.
Yeah.
With Chinese money.
And I bet it's on long-term contract.
I don't know about that. But I know that at some point there was a complaint that the technology being used is Chinese technology.
So it's
and
like
therefore, there is obviously this belief that the Chinese can hear and know everything we are doing
before it's done.
in the African Union building, because obviously the technology is there.
Yeah.
And they might be spying on us.
For me, I also think the African Union is not ready. The reason why I know they are not ready is because all the numbers we just read include doubling, tripling, 5xing of this and 350 million of population moving into. These are super big numbers. So there are two ways to deal with it. Either you staff or you do technology. In this case, staffing will not work.
Yeah.
First of all, they don't have the resources to staff. So they have to be at the cutting edge of technology, and they are not. Like this AI piece on African Union desk should be number one, number two, number three, because that's the only way they'll be able to handle scale
Yeah.
with the low budget that they have.
Yeah.
Now, from allegations of people that are in the African Union, they're still operating from like the Organization of African Unity approach, which we love. Like we're still working on unity, but I think we have to switch to the industrial mindset, and I don't think that switch is anywhere close to being switched on.
Yeah, we are still behind on that. Like for example, like I'll give you an example of European Union. Like trade issues, are decided as the European Union. For example, privacy laws, right? They want to sue Google because of Google's horrible privacy. It's European Union that creates
standards,
those
yeah.
and fully handles that
Yeah.
and sues. So this is where we're talking about having a fully integrated market that has the laws that are actionable. Like if the African Union court decides you have to pay this, you pay it.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have that yet.
Yeah.
I know like some small organizations like the East African Union, like SADC and the rest.
COMESA and
COMESA, they're trying to do their own type of trade courts and trade laws, but we need that implemented all at the African Union level.
Yes, that's the only way this is going to work.
Yeah, that's the only way it can work. And right now, we don't have that. And that means businesses or some big companies like Google or something, they can play it.
Yeah.
Because I can go to Nigeria and Nigeria can be, it's okay, you can do whatever you want with your data. And then I can go to Ghana and Ghana is like, no, you can't.
Yeah.
But if we were unified, we would have one.
And then what's going to happen is some government is going to find a cheap way and say, I'm going to build my taxation regime on top of Google Cloud or AWS. And then what? Now they can raise the price on you.
Yes. Yes.
You're taxing your
Anytime.
people, they're taxing your people.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and I think which is why like the point you mentioned about like AI it should be like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's huge, by the way. Huge on so many levels. One on infrastructure. We need to build data centers. Like not tomorrow, by the way. Like we need to build so many data centers with the best in technology available to be able to handle African data. We don't have that. We have several smaller data centers. I think South Africa is the one leading some of the bigger data centers. We have some major companies like Google, like Microsoft, Nvidia, and Facebook. They have been building some data centers. I think in Nigeria, in Ghana. I think Nvidia is building one in Kigali. I think there is several, I think, in Egypt. But they're not enough.
No.
So which means we still have our data that is being taken out of us. Yeah. That's a huge market for us. So we need infrastructure. And on top of infrastructure, we need obviously this big company like Nvidia, to give us the models that we need actually to grow our own AI, build our own models, models that impact us, that create our own solutions. Yeah. And that needs to be like a priority, like now.
Yeah, and how do you think that can be achieved? Because China did it with participation in your equity. So the government was in with the business. It said Google comes to China. China's like, okay, cool. You and I are a business.
I think there's something like that. For example, I forgot his name, the Zimbabwean billionaire who's a telecom.
I have no idea who he is.
Yes.
If it's not Dangote.
It's not Dangote. He's really, really taking a huge step in leading in building data centers. And countries are coming around to make it easier for him. For example, removing taxes, allowing materials to move in tax-free or tariff-free. That's huge. And coordination, like private and government partnership, is really, really needed for now. Like we need government to invest as much as private companies are also coming in to invest, especially in establishing what I'm calling the base. Infrastructure. Can we make sure we have the infrastructure? Honestly, this infrastructure, I want to repeat it several times because it's the biggest problem we have. Apart from the data centers, we need electricity. Electricity is a huge problem to Africa. One of the biggest impediments we have is energy. Like energy is a huge issue. There is different projects around going on, especially increasing solar energy. I know like Egypt is doing a lot. Kenya is doing a lot around solar energy. Morocco is doing a lot around solar energy. We need energy, like no tomorrow. Like this is huge for us. Roads. And opening up the airspace, people to travel, business people to travel, skills to move around, skilled labor to be able to move around and move around easily, and removing these barriers also that stop certain skills from working in certain skills, removing all of them. Having that level of infrastructure is a very much a basic that we don't have, that I think some countries are building, some countries are behind, but we need that, and we need that like now, before we start getting into the other issues you mentioned, like for example, university. We have some, I think under the African Union, we have created some universities for sciences, so for mathematics, science.
Or like STEM?
Like STEM. I think there is a big one for mathematics in Senegal and also in Rwanda. We have huge, very international universities like, anyway, I'm forgetting, but there's some universities from the USA that are now coming to Africa, and they're opening big branches in Africa, and they're doing STEM. Huge opportunity there. Should we? I understand, and I actually agree. These universities should move to Africa, but I think Africans, we should also grow our universities to the level that we should be doing research at such a high level that maybe we don't need international universities to move to Africa.
And even when the international universities move, I am kind of okay with the idea, because it's better than the talent leaving to go to the US to access Harvard or London School of Economics. But with all that said, we consciously avoided talking about minerals, and we do have 60% of the world minerals. Do you think first of all, do you think it was a wise editorial decision to not talk about minerals? But where do we place minerals in the rest of the opportunity? We talked about the people, talked about the urbanization, the data centers, the GDP, energy. Where do the minerals fit into this? And the reason why I say that is there are some countries that have urbanized strictly just from minerals. I'm looking at Norway, and their wealth fund is the envy of the world. But even if you look at Saudi Arabia, they didn't have anything else other than natural resources. How do you see that fitting in the opportunity?
So, and I think it was actually a good editorial, correct, not to talk about minerals, but anyway, it looks like we are going to. We are not going to.
It was when it lasted.
Yes. I think minerals have been a curse and a blessing to Africa.
True that,
Very
yeah.
unfortunate. We have some of the biggest, for example, let's talk about oil, right? Some of the biggest oil wells in Africa, Sudan, Angola, Nigeria, Libya, Egypt, with some crazy big reserves. But until now, none of them has actually helped. They have actually caused more problem. They have brought the West to take over and fight us instead of improving it. Nigeria is a very good example of a country that has like some big reserves, and they've been trying to improve their oil, including Dangote now trying to do refining in Nigeria, and he's facing problems from his own government. They're fighting him, which is, it doesn't make sense. Anyway,
it does on a self-interest level. It doesn't on the country could do so much better.
Yes, I think one big part we didn't talk about is governance, and how governance has been quite a huge problem for Africa. So oil has been quite a curse. Like if you look at Sudan, what has happened in Sudan, and this huge country that now is now Sudan and South Sudan, mostly it's because of interest in oil. And then if you go into other minerals that are now important in this era of AI, minerals that are found in countries like DRC, for example, things like copper, aluminium, and other minerals that are used in like smartphones, smart computers, in EV cars, cobalt, they're being used in EV cars to create energy and stuff. Like some countries actually, for example, like DRC has a lot of it, and unfortunately they have actually become a curse to us as well, because they have caused wars rather than caused development and peace. So maybe one day we will go down and like dismantle or like talk more details about.
To me, I think there's got to be a concerted effort. This is where I think African Union is not ready. There's got to be a concerted effort of equalization payments, because then peace is in the interest of everyone. Like if Dangote is trying to do the refineries, African Union should be in there with them, and the African money should be in there with all of them to make sure that there is some African interest in all of that. I'm not saying it's easy because that's idealistic, but there are other things that are even simpler than that. The cocoa in Ghana not being made into chocolate, it's a huge missed opportunity. The groundnuts in Tanzania not being made into oil, huge missed opportunity. Importing soaps and importing like lotions, shoes, like all of this are missed opportunities. A country like Kenya should have, like I saw what Rwanda was able to do with the textile industry. If you like prevent the low cost alternatives from coming in, you develop an efficient market, and then even if
the market actually grows.
And the market actually grows. So at some point, we're going to have to make a decision on how we're going to grow this market, and that might include, sealing it off from the world, from the competition. But African Union has to be able to step in and actually give it some direction and justify that this has worked. So that's primarily what I had. What do you think we should talk about now? Because we have gone over our usual allocated time, but we can.
I think this is like an amazing topic, and that's the reason why we have really gone above our allocated time we usually do. And maybe one time we'll try to just go down like detail on like one issue and just go down on it. Like maybe talk about the African Continental Trade Agreement and everything about it, because that's also huge. Or talk actually about minerals and countries that have minerals. Which ones have benefited, which ones have not benefited. But one thing I just want to add around mineral, do not fall for this green energy thing that is being put on us. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. There are countries that are discovering, for example, that they have some mineral, like Uganda. Uganda just found out they have oil. The West is pushing Uganda not to use that oil or not to extract, because they're saying, no, green energy, don't use your oil. I hope African countries don't fall for that, because the West has developed because of those minerals that they found. You talked about countries in Asia, like United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia. The economy, or including Norway, Norway. Their economy literally has been built by the natural resources in their
Yes,
country.
yeah.
We should never, someone should never come and try to teach us about some respectable politics or some modern
yeah.
green politics.
Yeah,
No.
like, don't
You
starve.
have natural resources, don't starve.
Yes.
Use them. And use them to the max you can use them. Please, let's be clear about this.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. Like I couldn't be disappointed more if our leaders decide the Paris Accord is more important than growing GDP.
Yeah, or like
I
than
don't
feeding
even,
the people.
I don't even want to
Yeah.
hear people consider it. And this carbon taxation business is actually one of the key political drawbacks that is going to happen.
Yeah.
Where our goods become more expensive because our carbon taxation is expensive because we're just getting started.
Yeah.
Our productions are not efficient.
Yeah.
So they will say, oh, you're producing too much carbon. That's how they try to get Ghana to not sell cocoa bean.
Yeah.
Or like, products of deforestation. But what do you mean deforestation? We have more forest than you.
Yeah.
You know?
Even the part you talked about the value added, like with creating chocolate, they are telling them like, no. If you start producing chocolate here,
Yeah,
you are increasing your carbon production.
Yes, but send
So
it to
just
us.
keep sending to us.
And we'll produce it efficiently. We'll sell it to you by 10 times that amount.
Yes, and then we'll pay you for carbon usage. So that's actually a thing we have to be careful about.
Yes.
So there is this. He talked about this carbon money.
Carbon market, yeah, carbon credits.
Carbon credits, where
They're
countries
real money, by the
that by the yes, it's a serious. I think I saw it. People are doing business on it and running.
Yes, there's a market for
If
carbon
you
credits.
if you have a certain land and you decide, for example, to grow trees, some guy in Saudi Arabia will come and pay you money because they upset by the carbon they create and the green that you are building.
Yeah.
I think we should be careful on that because essentially they're trying to tell us don't do anything.
Yeah, just build forests.
Just build forests and we'll pay you some money.
Yes, and then it's going to be like, oh, urbanization has slowed down in Africa. Be like, yes, of course it has slowed down. We need to build like electricity poles using the trees. We need to build our own industries, no matter how inefficient they are to begin with.
Yes.
I mean, look at the milk industry here. It is protected from the U.S.
Yeah.
One of the things Trump did not like is the fact that milk is protected. Eggs,
I
and
think
poultry.
it has survived for a long time. I think probably this time it's going away. But yeah, Canada has protected it.
Yeah, it's not the first time or last time. It's just that every time we do it, it's like, oh no, we don't understand.
Yes.
This is terrible for the world.
Yeah.
And it sets a bad precedent.
Yeah.
So that, to me, I'm super excited about the African opportunity. I think for the youth, understanding how big it is your only job. Like, you don't even look aside, don't look around. Understand how big this opportunity is. You will find a way to make use of the opportunity. If you go around thinking Africa is the last continent you want to be on, 2050, a quarter of the world is going to be in Africa doing business, while you out here still thinking that it's a dark continent.
Yeah, I think we are late, especially the diaspora. I think the diaspora should continue
Man, we are
pushing
early. What's your
to
name?
invest in Africa. Like, by all means, like, put your money in Africa, honestly. I think, and start planning your life, your retirement back in Africa. So thank you so much. This was an interesting topic. Let us know if you enjoyed it, and then we'll probably try to dissect it and talk about it more.
Yeah.
My name is Remy.
I'm JP, First World Property.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.